Hello team players! So, in my last video, I covered the class abilities of the new Commander class from the Battlecry Playtest. But one thing I did not get to is Commander Feats. So let's just dive right into those. So of course, we're going to start with level 1 Feats and Armored Regiment Training. You treat heavy armor as if it was one bulk less than its actual bulk. You can also rest normally no matter what armor you're wearing. In addition, when in exploration mode, you and your allies use your normal speed to determine your travel speed and ignore the speed reduction of your armor. In other words, you can travel faster. Unfortunately, most people aren't going to take this feat because it isn't that great, to be honest with you. If you're in an exploration campaign, this can be great. But most commanders probably won't care about the bulk reduction or the increased speed during encounter mode. Now, if this feat applied during combat, it would be absolutely insane. But sadly, only during exploration mode, which makes this not a great feat here. Combat assessment, on the other hand, is actually insane for this class. This is literally the exact same feat that fighters get, but it is way better for commanders than it is for fighters. Don't forget that commanders are an intelligence-based class, which already makes this way better. But not just that. Remember that commanders can use warfare lore for recall knowledge about creatures, but only to learn certain things about them. Those things that you're limited on when using warfare lore for recall knowledge are actually the exact things you would want to learn when you're using combat assessments, particularly which of their saving throws is the lowest. This means every commander can take advantage of this feat, while only some fighters can take advantage of it. Overall, this by far is one of the best feats you can take at level 1. But there's a second feat that you can take at level 1 that's also really good, especially if you want your commander to heal allies. And that is Combat Medic. You become trained in medicine and can use your intelligence instead of your wisdom on medicine checks. In addition, you also gain the Battle Medicine Skill feat as a bonus feat. This makes the commander almost as good as the druid when it comes to out-of-combat healing. When it comes to out-of-combat healing, the commander has access to everything that the druid does except for the Healing Plaster cantrip. So while they do need healer's tools, unlike druids and other primal casters, this feat alone makes them one of the best out-of-combat healers in the game. And we're not even done with healing feats yet. Anyway, moving on, we have Commander Steed, giving you a young animal companion as a mount. You can place your banner on your steed's barding or saddle, and doing so means feats and abilities that require your banner emanate from your mount, even if you aren't riding it. Which effectively means your banner can be somewhere else, and you can be wherever, giving you a lot of versatility with this class. Just like with Combat Medic, you need to be able to prepare at least 2 tactics to take Deceptive Tactics. Luckily, you can prepare the 2 tactics at level 1. Luckily, if you're a full commander, then you can always take this feat. You can use warfare lore instead of deception for checks to create diversion or use the feint action. In addition, you can use your proficiency in warfare lore to determine whether you can take feats that modify the created diversion or feint actions. And remember, warfare lore is going to get up to legendary eventually. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Which means you are going to be really good at warfare lore regardless of what level you're at. Especially since this is an intelligence-based class. If you want to be more of a sneaky commander, then this is a feat you want to take. Otherwise, you're probably better off with one of the other feats at this level. And lastly, we have Plant Banner. You can plant your banner in a corner of your square. Doing so means that all allies within a 30-foot emanation of your banner gain temporary hit points equal to half your intelligence modifier. These hit points last for 1 round. However, any allies that start their turn within that emanation have those hit points renewed. While your banner is planted, you can only signal your allies with auditory action, instead of being able to choose between auditory and visual. In addition, if your banner is attached to a weapon, you cannot wield that weapon while your banner is planted. In addition, while your banner is planted, any effects that normally happen in an emanation around your banner instead happen in a burst that is 10 feet larger. You can use this action again to retrieve your banner. However, any enemy that is adjacent to where you planted your banner can use an interact action to remove it. This ends this effect and prevents you from using any of your banner effects until you have successfully retrieved it. If you are at least 5th level, the temporary hit points increase to your full intelligence modifier. If you're 15th level or higher, these temporary hit points are equal to your level plus your intelligence modifier. Unfortunately, this feat isn't as good as it seems. Since most commanders are probably going to put their banner on a weapon or a shield, this means that you're gonna have to not be in combat while your banner is planted. And while getting temporary hit points every round is good, if an enemy decides to target you, you are gonna have to use this feat again to retrieve your banner so you can actually attack or raise your shield. In any case, smart enemies will want to target you, as you will be buffing your entire party with your tactics. For first level feats, I definitely recommend you either take combat assessment or you take combat med, or both if you happen to be a human. For second level feats, we're going to start with adaptive stratagem. As a free action, when you roll initiative, you can replace one of your prepared tactics with another one from your folio. Unfortunately, this particular feat is actually pretty good in the beginning, but it gets less and less useful as you level up and are able to prepare more tactics. Don't get me wrong, it can be good at high levels, especially for tactics that are pretty situational. But leveling up means you get more tactics per day, which means that you are less and less likely to need this feat. So if you do take this, I would recommend retraining it at some point. Next we've got defensive swap. If you or an adjacent ally are the target of an attack, reaction, you can swap places with each other. Whichever one of you was not the target of the initial attack becomes the target instead. This is a fantastic way to protect your allies, or for them to protect you. This is especially good if the enemy targets a spellcaster that is adjacent to you, as you are wearing armor and the spellcaster might not be. I honestly wish that the champion had a feat like this. And while I haven't looked at the guardian yet, I'm assuming they have a similar feat or ability. I really hope so. Guiding shot requires that you are wielding a ranged weapon. Make a ranged strike with the required weapon. If you hit, the next ally to attack that creature gets a +1 circumstance bonus to their attack roll. If you critically hit, the bonus is +2. I would only take this feat if you're wanting to be a ranged commander, as otherwise it probably isn't going to come up all that often, as you do need to be wielding a ranged weapon to use this feat. However, if you are a ranged commander, this is a fantastic feat to take, as you're giving one ally a +1 or even +2 to hit, which can be very effective. Then we've got setup strike. Make a melee strike against one enemy. Should you hit, that enemy is off guard against the next attack that one of your allies makes against it before the beginning of your next turn. Another fantastic feat here. Although this feat doesn't make an opponent off guard to everyone instead of just one person, sometimes it's going to be easier to hit their AC instead of their fortitude or reflex DC for grappling or tripping them respectively. In those situations, this feat is actually really good. But in other situations, you may be better off trying to grapple or trip them. Then we've got our tactical expansion feat that I mentioned in my other video. This allows you to add 2 tactics you qualify for to your folio. And you can take this feat multiple times, adding 2 tactics to your folio each time. Right now, this feat isn't that useful, but it'll be better as we get more tactics. And lastly, we have what I consider to be the best feat here, Rapid Assessment. As a free action, when you roll initiative, you can do a recall knowledge check against one creature you're observing. Again, remember, we can use warfare lore for recall knowledge. So this is fantastic action economy. and it allows you to know things about creatures immediately upon a rolling initiative, which means your allies can take advantage of that knowledge very effectively. Recall knowledge is something that people forget about all the time, but hopefully this class will get more people to use it. For level 4, we're going to start with Banner Twirl. For one action, you give yourself and all allies adjacent to you concealment from ranged attacks until the start of your next turn. Unfortunately, this feat is only useful if you've got someone who uses ranged attacks you're going up against, which honestly isn't a whole lot of enemies. Most enemies are going to be using melee attacks against, which means most of the time this feat is going to be completely useless. I would only take this if you're running into a lot of enemies who like to use ranged attacks. It is good in that situation, I just don't think you're going to use it very much if you're not running into those enemies. Observational analysis requires combat assessment as a prerequisite. When you use combat assessment against a foe that you or an ally has targeted with a strike or spell since the start of your last turn, you get a +2 bonus on the recall knowledge check. If you happen to get a critical hit on your combat assessment strike, the bonus is +4. This feat is downright insane, especially if you get a critical hit. A +2 on your recall knowledge check if you regularly hit, in addition to being able to use warfare lore, which you just became an expert in at level 3, is just, I have no words for it. This feat takes recall knowledge to a whole nother level, and we aren't even done with the recall knowledge feats yet. Now remember how I said we weren't done with the medic feats in this class? Well, now we come to shielded recovery. It requires combat medic to take. However, it allows you to use treat wounds or battle medicine with the same hand that you are using to wield a shield. This also works with other uses of the medicine skill, as long as you are only holding a shield in that hand. In addition, when you use battle medicine on an ally while wielding a shield, they gain a +1 bonus to their AC and reflex saves until the start of your next turn or until they're no longer adjacent to you, whichever comes first. With these feats and the feat you'll get at a much higher level, the medic archetype would be absolutely insane with the commander. I mean, think about it. The medic dedication alone would be insane with these feats. Expert in medicine and being able to use battle medicine more often? Yeah, absolutely insane. Okay, unsteadying strike is actually really good as well. Make a melee strike against an enemy within your reach. If you hit, then the target receives a -2 penalty on their DCs against attempts to shove, reposition, grapple, or disarm them. These penalties last until the start of your next turn. So basically use this and everybody has more of a chance of grappling, shoving, repositioning, or disarming the opponent. The only athletics action that this does not apply to is tripping. I 100% think this should apply to tripping. It is literally called unsteadying strike. It should apply to tripping. I don't think it'd be broken at all if they included tripping in this. But I will say this is still a fantastic feat, even if it doesn't apply to tripping, as this gives everyone a better chance of using these actions, and they are all good in the right situation. Fantastic feat here, I highly recommend. And lastly, for level 4, we have Wave the Flag. For one action, each ally benefiting from your commander's banner immediately reduces their frightened condition by 1, and can make a new saving throw against any mental effect affecting them. However, regardless of the results, the ally is immune to this feat for 10 minutes. So this one is actually pretty good as well. You're reducing the frightened condition, which is a very common and very debilitating condition, and you're allowing them the chance to get rid of any one mental effect affecting them of their choice. So if they're confused or dominated or something like that, they get a new saving throw against them. Stuff like that doesn't happen too often, but when it does, you'll be glad you have this. This is another feat I would definitely consider. For level 6, we've got Battle-Tested Warhorse, which makes your commander steed a mature animal companion. In addition, your mount never attacks you, even if it's magically compelled to do so. Pretty basic feat here. If you picked up Commander Steed at level 1, you'll definitely want to take this feat here. But otherwise, Efficient Preparation might be a good one to take. This allows you to increase the number of tactics you can prepare by 1. Unfortunately, it looks like you're only going to be able to take this feat once. But I think if they allowed you to take this more than once, it'd be kind of insane. But we'll have to see what this class can do when it actually comes out. Okay, now we have 2 feats that are pretty basic and available to other classes. We have Reactive Strike, allowing commanders to use Reactive Strike as if they were a fighter, and Shield Warden, allowing commanders to protect allies with their shield and not just themselves. At level 8, however, we do have 4 brand new feats, starting with Defiant Banner. For 1 action, you and all allies affected by your commander's banner gain resistance equal to your intelligence modifier to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage until the start of your next turn. At 14th level, this increases to your intelligence modifier plus half your level. I don't think a lot of people realize how many things deal bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage. It's a lot. And this gives you and your allies resistance to all of them? Pretty nuts. Then we've got Officer's Education. You become trained in 2 skills that you're not already trained in, become an expert in 1 skill you are trained in, learn 1 common language you don't already know, and gain 1 general feat of 3rd level or lower. And you can gain this feat twice, gaining all of its benefits each time. Another insane feat here, especially that 3rd level or lower general feats. General feats are some of the best feats in the entire game, and this gives you 1 for free, and you can take it twice. Not only that, but you get 3 free skill increases each time you take this feat. This won't make a commander as much of a skill monkey as a rogue, but it will get them very close, especially if you take it twice. Next we have another insane feat with Rallying Banner. For 1 action, you can restore 4d6 hit points to every ally that is affected by your commander's banner. This healing increases by 1d6 at 10th level and every 2 levels after. This, however, only works in combat, as it draws upon your allies' morale and adrenaline. But spending 1 action to heal every single one of your allies is nuts. And it's a pretty decent amount of healing too, especially since it goes up by 1d6 every 2 levels. Awesome feat here. Definitely worth taking. And finally, for level 8 feats, we have Unrivaled Analysis, which requires Rapid Assessment. When you use Rapid Assessment, you can attempt a Recall Knowledge check on up to 4 creatures that you're observing. The way that this feat is worded, you may be able to make more than 1 Recall Knowledge check on a creature. If that's the case, this feat is absolutely insane. As with 4 checks, you are pretty much guaranteed to succeed on 1 of them. But more than likely, this is meant for when you're going up against 4 different types of creatures. I think this feat is too broken if you can make 4 Recall Knowledge checks on a single creature. More than likely, you're only going to be able to make 1 Recall Knowledge check per type of creature you're facing. So while this feat is still good, it's kind of situational, as a lot of times you're going to be running into multiples of the same creature. We'll have to see what Raw says about this feat. At level 10, we'll start with Battle Hardened Destrier. This makes your mount a nimble or savage animal companion. In addition, even if you don't spend an action to command your mount, it can still use 1 action on your turn to stride or strike. It can do this at any point during your turn as long as you aren't taking an action. If it does, that's all the actions it gets during that turn. You can't command it later. Again, if you've got the mount from this class, then you'll definitely want to take this. Otherwise, you probably want to take a different feat at level 10. Like Drilled Reflexes, for example. When you use your Drilled Reactions ability, you can give an extra reaction to 2 allies rather than just 1. This can be really good depending on what tactics you take. If you've got a lot of tactics that give allies reactions, this might be the feat to take at 10th level. Otherwise, maybe not. Now let's talk about Standard Bearer's Sacrifice. If an opponent targets an ally with a ranged attack, and both of you are observing them, and you are also in range of the attack, as well as holding or wielding your banner, you can use a reaction to force the triggering creature to make a will saving throw against your class DC. On a successful saving throw, the attack targets the ally as normal, but on a failure, the target attacks you rather than the ally. On a critical failure on the saving throw, you also receive a +2 circumstance bonus to your AC against that attack. This is really, really good, especially to use against allies that have low AC. As remember, this class gets heavy armor, and you are eventually going to be a master in heavy armor, meaning it is beneficial for you to redirect attacks toward you, and not allies with low AC. Fantastic feat here. Highly recommend. And finally, we have Targeting Shots, which requires Guiding Shot to take. When you use Guiding Shot and hit, the next attack made by an ally gains a +2 bonus on the attack roll, even if the strike is not a critical hit. In addition, the strike deals extra precision damage equal to your intelligence modifier. While this feat is good, it does require a ranged attack, meaning ranged commanders will want to take this. Melee commanders, which I have a feeling is what most commanders are going to be, will probably not want to take this feat, as their dexterity will not be high. But since you're giving your ally more of a chance to hit and extra damage, this is a good feat if you can use it. Okay, for level 12, we've got Fortunate Blow. For one action, you can make a strike against an enemy. If you hit, the next creature other than you that attacks that same enemy before the start of your next turn gets advantage on their attack roll. In other words, roll twice and take the better results, which is fantastic for this system. Advantage on any roll is pretty darn rare, so giving it to one ally on an attack roll is amazing. But then we have Perfected Evaluations, which isn't great. This allows you to use 6 recall knowledge actions when you use Rapid Assessment. This feat just isn't good. I mean, how often are you going to run into 6 different types of enemies in one encounter? It's just not going to happen very often. I do think people are going to take Unrivaled Analysis, because you might run into 4 different types of enemies. But 6, no. That's not going to happen very much at all. And then commanders also get access to the Reactive Interference Rogue feats, essentially allowing them to disrupt reactions if they want to. But if the enemy is higher level than you, then you do have to make an attack roll and hit in order to do it. Next up, we've got Contact with the Enemy, which requires Adaptive Stratagem. When you use Adaptive Stratagem, you can replace any number of tactics with other tactics from your folio. This one is pretty good if you've got a bunch of situational tactics in your folio. And some of those tactics you can pick up are pretty situational. So, if you take those, definitely consider picking up this feat. Otherwise, you're probably better off picking something else. Then we've got a really good feat called Desperate Resuscitation. You must be a master in medicine and have combat medic to take this feat. To use this feat, you must be holding your healer's tools or wearing them and have a hand free. For 3 actions, attempt a DC 40 medicine check on a creature that has been dead for no more than 3 rounds. If you succeed, the target returns to life with the effects of Raised Dead, except that it has any wounded condition that it had before dying, and that wounded condition is increased by 1. Or the target becomes wounded 1 if it didn't already have the wounded condition when it died. Whether you succeed or fail, the target is immune to this feat for 1 day. This is the exact same thing as the Resuscitate Medic feat, except you only have to be a master in medicine and not legendary to take it. And of course, you don't need the medic dedication to take it. Bringing back an ally from dying is amazing, especially for really tough encounters that you'll run into a lot at this level. Plus, you only have to be level 14 to take this feat and not level 16 like the Resuscitate feat. I definitely recommend you take this feat at this level. But there's another feat that is really good at this level as well. With Quickening Banner, you can quicken all allies affected by your commander's banner for 1 round. They can use the extra action to stride or strike. Sadly, you can only use this feat once per 10 minutes. However, quickening allies for even just 1 round is insane. Definitely recommend this feat as well. Okay, 2 feats at level 16. First, we've got Confusing Commands, which requires Deceptive Tactics. Each enemy within the area affected by your commander's banner must make a will saving throw. If they fail, they become confused for 1 round or 2 rounds on a critical failure. However, should they succeed on their saving throw, they're immune to this feat for 1 day. This feat can be really good. Confuse is a good debuff, because they might attack their allies rather than, well, the party, or just do nothing. But since this feat requires Deceptive Tactics, and Deceptive Tactics isn't something that I think a lot of commanders are going to take, most people probably won't take this feat either. But honestly, I don't think the second feat at 16th level is much better. With Undaunted Discipline, if your turn ends and you are affected by a mental effect, you can use a reaction to ignore that mental effect for 1 round. However, you can only suppress a particular effect once with Undaunted Discipline. In addition, you can't use this feat to suppress an effect that you chose to have affect you. Also, you can use this reaction even if the mental effect prevents you from using reaction. Mental effects are pretty common in this system, but the fact that this effect only works on you, only works on a mental effect once, and only lasts for 1 round means that I don't really like this feat very much. It can allow you to use other abilities that help the party, but it itself does not help the party at all. So honestly, I really don't like either of the 16th level feats. But then we come to level 18, and we're going to start with an insane feat. With Demand Surrender, if you and your allies currently outnumber the enemies, and you or an ally has either restrained an enemy or reduced an enemy to 0 hit points since the start of your last turn, you can choose 1 enemy that you are observing and force that enemy to make a will saving throw. On a successful saving throw, that enemy cannot take any hostile actions that include you as a target for 1 round. If they fail on their saving throw, they are also fleeing for 1 round. However, should they critically fail their saving throw, they drop any weapons or items they're holding, lies prone on the ground, and does not take any hostile actions against you or any of your allies for 1 minute, unless one of you attacks it. This effectively means you can mechanically force an enemy to surrender, which is especially good if you and your allies can't beat whatever you're facing, or are just really low on health. Unfortunately, this does have the incapacitation trait, which means bosses will never get that critical failure effect. However, even just 1 round where they're fleeing can be amazing. I definitely highly recommend this feat. The second feat at level 18 is Practice Reflexes, which requires Drilled Reflexes. When you use your Drilled Reactions ability, you can choose 4 allies to gain an extra reaction. This effectively means you can give all allies an extra reaction to use your tactics, which means all of them can still use their own reactions for what they use reactions for, which is pretty nuts too. And now we finally come to level 20 feats and Glorious Banner. Your commander's banner now affects a 60-foot emanation or an 80-foot burst if you're using Plant Banner. In addition, the status bonus to will saves and DCs against fear effects increases to +2. You and all allies in the area also gain a +1 bonus to AC, reflex saves, and fortitude save. Enemies within the area affected by your commander's banner also receive a -2 penalty on will saves as long as they can see your banner. That last effect is insane for any spellcaster that uses will save spell, particularly bards. That last effect is pretty much a permanent -2 on all their will saves. That second effect is pretty much a permanent bonus to all defensive stats for all allies. Plus, your banner is now a 60-foot emanation, which is a huge area. I can definitely tell why you cannot take this feat until level 20. It is downright nuts. But the second feat at level 20 might be just as good. With Pennant of Victory, for one action once every 10 minutes, you can give all allies a +4 bonus to attack and damage rolls, a +10 foot status bonus to all speeds, and 40 temporary hit points for 1 round. This is more of an offensive bonus, and it doesn't last as long as the last feat I covered. However, even just 1 round of these bonuses is actually pretty insane. You are effectively giving even classes that only get expert in weapons legendary proficiency in their weapon, and a +4 bonus to their attack roll, plus increased speed and temporary hit points. Another nuts feat here. I can definitely see why this one is level 20 as well. I do wish it lasted for more than 1 round, but I do understand why. This feat would be too broken if it lasted for more than 1 round, especially if it lasted as long as the last feat, which is basically forever. And that's every feat you can take as a commander in this playtest. Overall, honestly, I can definitely see the hype behind the commander. There is definitely a reason why this class is my new favorite class. This class is the definition of teamwork, just flat out. Although, I have to say this again, I do wish that they had more options to help out spellcasters and not just martials. Something to help out spellcasters with their spells would be nice. Granted, some of these feats do lower saving throws, which can definitely help spellcasters. But I do wish that more of these didn't apply to just strikes. Something for spell attack rolls would be nice. Or at least something that would lower more than just will save. But I do understand why it's just will saves. But if you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more Pathfinder and Starfinder 2e teamwork content. And if you're interested in getting my videos early, you can become a member of this channel, or you can join on my Patreon page, just like these people here. Links are in the description. But if you guys want to learn more about Commander class abilities as well as tactics, I got a video for you right here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and remember, teamwork is vital. It helps us solve problems.